You're listening to Australia's national youth radio station, Triple J. For more info, go to triplej.net.au.
Thanks to the intervention of the ABC Board and the generous support of the Macquarie Bank, Triple J reluctantly presents the following 2 hours of unbiased, fair and balanced coverage of the week's topical issues. Would you please be upstanding for the national anthem? And your hosts, Stirling Addison LLB and guest, as we present Restoring the Balance.
Good evening and welcome to the show. Conservative luminaries who may be listening tonight: Rupert Murdoch, Geelong Grammar Old Boy and publisher of the J-Mag. And John Roscombe, Executive Director of the Institute of Public Affairs, Australia's leading free market think tank. I would also like to welcome to tonight's program a co-host of Restoring the Balance, member of the National Party and tiller of the rich soil of Victoria's Western Districts, Mr. Hamish Angus Clydeside. Coming up tonight, a frank and honest discussion about the future of the ABC, with hedge fund manager and commentator on the ABC's Inside Business, Mr. Tom Elliott. Plus, we'll also be speaking to Queensland Senator Barnaby Joyce and discussing Kevin Rudd, the dud. That and much more lies ahead of us on the ABC's Restoring the Balance. There are many who like to take cheap potshots at the coalition, who like to suggest that we are not indeed in lockstep on all things. This I decry as an outrageous lie. Proving this today, co-hosting the show, is my good friend, Mr. Hamish Angus Clydeside, who joins us from his country residence place.
Out in Haywood.
In Haywood, in
Western
rural
Victoria, just north of Portland.
It's wonderful to have you here as we continue the ideological conservative rollback here at the ABC.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really mainly here out of interest. Is this the room that they record the Country Hour in?
I'm not sure. This is Triple J, and I think that's a
right. I thought there was a larger, encompassing ABC type building. Is this all Triple J?
It's large. Yes, it is. It's large enough. It is a monument to the squandered taxpayers' money.
A lot of young people around. It's making sense. But thanks for having me. I had the opportunity. I was coming into town anyway.
Yes.
In the Pajero. Well, really, I had to. I'm here to see a local prostate surgeon in Collins Street. There are some quite good chappies in Portland and Warrnambool and Hamilton, for that matter. But really, one doesn't want to be shaking hands with them at service on Sunday after, knowing where their hand's been, basically. Yes. So I've come for the weekend.
It is nonetheless honest toil.
It is, and of course we're using the opportunity. My wife's come with me.
Yes.
Fragrance has come with me. She's getting rather feisty about renovating the kitchen again. It's been 8 months. The Amish attire is looking a little tired.
Yes.
It was when we first put it in.
Yes.
So she's adopting some kind of Spanish mission type thing, although I'm not particularly keen on having anything related to Catholicism in our property.
I will say she's exemplary in her stoutness and handsomeness.
She is.
Fragrant.
And, she is fragrant. That's why she's called that. Now,
you have obviously a wife. You're a proud member of the National Party. Do your kids share your passion for...
Mostly. I have 4 children. That's the standard number for National Party people, like Barnaby Joyce.
Barnaby Joyce, who will be joining us later on the programme.
But I have 2 boys, 2 girls. I have Hamish, Hamish the elder.
Yes.
And the youngest in the family is Hamish the younger. And then 2 girls, Sarah and Sarah.
Yes. Privately educated, I hope.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes. They all go all different institutions. I'd prefer not to name them. They're already in a little trouble with bastardisation.
Yes, well, no doubt they're on some sort of ABC hate list for, of course, being privately educated. It's not the go here at Triple J. Hamish, you will be sticking around for the next hour. We have to go to a track, and then we'll be back shortly with you on Restoring the Balance on Triple J. 1300 055536, or you can text on 1975, the year Gough Whitlam was dismissed for incompetence.
Great year.
It was a great year for Conservatives. 1975, 7555. if you'd like to weigh into this discussion, if you can just carefully put down the glass instrument that's smoking in your hands, put it on the stained carpet and make your way in a stupor towards the phone and dial that number. You can join myself and Hamish from the Western Districts of Victoria, where we are presenting 2 hours of unbiased conservative comment.
I was once friends with Malcolm Fraser, but that's a long time ago.
He is, of course, from your part of the world.
The seat of Wannon.
And it is
Held,
magnificent.
thank God, by David Hawker.
It is magnificent to of course, find out that you have exiled him from your social circle too,
Absolutely.
because he has turned into perhaps one of the Liberal Party's great traitors.
Indeed.
Judas.
Indeed. Some of the things that have been coming from his mouth makes me want to secede.
I would contend that his property in Nareen is nourished by his bleeding heart.
It's been removed from our local directory.
Good.
Although Tammy does come to book club occasionally with fragrance.
Now, Kevin Rudd has had quite a week.
An awful week.
I trust, Hamish, you were watching this reprehensible
Indeed.
lapse of judgment.
Supping with the devil, as he was wont to do. And I wonder if Kevin was in the room, if he could answer the question, which part of the phrase disgraced former Premier did he not understand?
Well, this is what I find so astonishing about the whole thing. They had 3 dates, 3 breakfast, lunch, dinner.
I believe it was consummated on the first.
Well, this is what I'm wondering. The third was for coffee, and was that possibly the breakup chat? Was it the I think I need to see other disgraced former state premiers chat? I'm just wondering if it was along those lines.
And the second, and the third, no, I still need you.
Yes,
As he sat rubbering mining plans all over his near-naked body.
Well,
on the floor of an Italian restaurant in Perth, which I won't be attending any further, I can tell you.
I'm just wondering if it confirmed the old rhyme, shoddy influence peddlers don't make passes at opposition leaders with glasses. Yes.
Oh, it's been such a long time since I've heard that.
Yes. Now, Burke is a man known for wielding unchecked power. He's an menacing force behind the throne, wielding vast power beyond his station.
Beyond
his station. Yes. Now, we contrast that with John Howard and his dinner date from the previous week, a man of unimpeachable virtue, Dick Cheney.
Lovely. Now that's a dinner party.
A colossus.
That other thing was rubbish. I mean, reformed Premier, perhaps. He just didn't understand what he was getting into. And I have it on good word that Rudd, this isn't the only nefarious character that he's dined with. He was seen having coffee with O.J. Simpson.
Yes, this I would believe.
Apparently something to do with Foxtel rights, I'm not too sure. Playing Kaplunk with Richard Milhouse Nixon, as a small child, of course. But he has supped with the devil on many occasions. He was seen dining in a subway in the township of Maryborough in Queensland with Ned Kelly.
This is extraordinary. Although I would take issue with Nixon, I would certainly not call him the devil.
Indeed.
He was a brave conservative.
He was a man who had a bad day.
He was a man of principle. So we should choose our friends wisely, I think. And I would say the epithet Rudd the Dud, which I myself coined, is beginning to stick.
I think you're right.
And beginning to hurt.
I can't think of any other phrase that befits him better.
1300 055536 if you'd like to join in. This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J. You are with myself, Stirling Addison, and Hamish from the Western Districts of Victoria, proud national and a proud Liberal, presenting 2 hours of conservative comment here on the ABC, where there is, of course, entrenched bias against our particular kind of message.
Indeed. And one of the turncoats has revealed her hand this week. I had Maxine McHugh out on my property at one stage, doing a story about where I've converted a parcel of my land for wind farming, and I recommend it to anyone. The sheep quite like the whirring of the turbines.
Yes.
I quite like the whirring of the turbines. In fact, some of the sheep now have turbines attached to them. They only give out 30 kilowatts, but nonetheless, Maxine McHugh managed to turn what I thought was a lovely human interest story about sheep with turbines on the back into something other. And she's revealed her hand this week by taking on, and while he is part of your particular clan, a man I deeply respect, taking on John Howard in his own seat. Is she going to be the first of a number to show their hand? Are they all, as we walk around this building, are all people going to be wearing campaign badges? I have heard on good hand that Peter Cundall is going to be taking on the seat of Bass. Peter Cundall, you are familiar with Peter Cundall's work on governing Australia, of course. I know you're more of a bookish man, Stirling, not so much into getting your hand there, I can tell by those slacks.
What we have at the ABC that I've been saying for quite a while is a training camp. A training camp that inculcates its charges with an ideology that's no less inimical to our nation than that taught in the mosques of the frontier region of Pakistan. This is what we face. It is indeed a malarial swamp, which is training its charges to go forth and destroy everything we hold dear in Australia. And if you look at the average gathering of, say, friends of the ABC, it really is comrades of the Commission.
Indeed.
This is the sort of thing that I'm talking about. But I just on the Maxine McHugh thing, I would like to condemn the 4 very brave men who were seen loitering around her car. She said that there were 4 shady characters looking around her car. In fact, these men were so shady that Kevin Rudd is booked to have lunch with them next Thursday. Yes.
Indeed. All of them.
Yes, all of them. All of them.
They were making preliminary arrangements for the dinner.
If and extends all the way through. If you take the 7:30 report theme with Kerry O'Brien, it played backwards. It is eerily redolent of the Communist Internationale.
Really?
Yes. Have you ever seen the ABC weather presented? The weatherman will instinctively begin his report with WA.
Right.
In which case he will go to the left-hand side of the country.
Indeed.
This happens.
Bananas
in pyjamas, which I've noticed in the odd ABC shop, are merely a stalking horse for the wider acceptance of gay marriage.
Indeed. In fact, I have it on good advice that they are actually going to take on the seats of Costello and Abbott. B1 and B2 in suits. Higgins and Warringah to fall to 2 men in pyjamas pursuing an alternative lifestyle.
Yes. Well, I ask you this. When is the last time you ever saw a straight banana?
Never.
You haven't.
Never.
And my research has actually led me, just on this, of ABC personalities who are indeed of the left, led me to watching a night on Rage recently, where the music of Marilyn Manson and Nick Cave was programmed by none other than somebody called Goth Whitlam.
Oh.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Rampant and rife at the ABC, except for right here on Restoring the Balance.
Well, the question is, who will Maxine McHugh, which disgraced premier will she be dining with?
Yes, you and McHugh's Army. ABC, Triple J. This is Restoring the Balance. It is on Triple J. You are with myself, Stirling Addison, and Mr. Hamish Angus Clyde of the Country Party, well, formerly Country Party, now the National Party. We are talking to a talkback caller, Preston, from Mosman.
Evening, gentlemen. Mosman, my friend, Mosman. In Infidia.
Yes.
I would have said that if I'd introduced you.
Marvellous event I'm having on this Triple J this evening.
Yes.
I'm actually constructing my thesis on malcontents, and so I thought Triple J would be a good place to source such malcontents. Unfortunately, you don't have a station.
Yes.
From the powers of
Hamish the Young is actually doing his thesis on mobile phone callers into radio stations, and that they should ensure they're in a good service area before they do it. You would think Mosman would be one of those, but it wasn't, unfortunately. Preston would love to have heard what you had to say, but clearly you had nothing to say.
I could have heard that all night. Now, it is now my great pleasure to introduce somebody who is proposing what you would say is something quite explosive here at the ABC. We'll let him further fill out the blanks there. He is, of course, a very esteemed and respected hedge fund manager. He is of MM&E Capital. He can be seen as a commentator on the ABC's Inside Business. He is, of course, Mr. Tom Elliott. Good evening, Tom.
Yes, Stirling, Hamish, wonderful to see you both. Now, of course, I've got big news, and it's not just me at the heart of this. I mean, these are rumours going all throughout the share market at the moment. Of course, up until the recent weeks, I mean, the stock market had been hitting record highs. And there's a lot of money washing around, and particularly in the media sector.
Yes.
Now, obviously, you don't sully yourselves with commercial media, Channel 9, Channel 7.
What? Never heard of them.
Shows like this. But but the thing is, at the moment, there's all these groups of investors globally around the world who want to buy Australian media assets. And I have it on very good authority indeed, from the highest levels of the federal government. That is, of course, the government led by our esteemed Prime Minister, Mr. John Howard.
The member for Bennelong.
That there's a very good chance that given that this is in an election year, and given that we've got record valuations for media companies, the ABC could very well soon be privatised. And of course, the ABC includes this very good Triple J station itself.
Yes.
And let's face it, I mean, there's several good reasons to privatise the ABC.
Yes, it is an $800 million a year drain on the public purse.
Well, that's right. I mean, here at Triple J alone, I mean, why have a government subsidisation to play pop and so-called rock and roll music, devil music as we call it at the Anglican Church? So, there's no need to subsidise noise. Secondly, there's a feeling in the federal government, Tony Abbott I know is very strong on this, that listeners to Triple J, listeners to the ABC, viewers of ABC television are missing out because they don't get to see ads. No. And they don't know what sorts of things to buy in the shops or how much these things cost.
They are effectively uninformed consumers.
An uninformed consumer is likely to be a misled consumer.
I was told previously that I wasn't able to plug fragrance as walnut jam, and thank you very much for your advice on that, Tom. We've got into walnuts since your advice that they're on the move. I'd love to sit here and say that fragrance sells walnut jam at the fete.
You're not allowed to, though.
I'm not allowed to.
You're not allowed. You can't even.
It's ridiculous.
You can't even advertise
of a Sunday morning before and after service, and sometimes at evensong.
If you were to sell cigarettes, you can't advertise them here either.
So, how's an aspiring young smoker to know which brand to buy? I mean, there's so many out there.
We could make up a brand and plug it, but where's the point in that?
We'd end up in jail. Now, Tom, you've raised an interesting possibility, the possibility perhaps of a management buyout of Triple J led by, say, Richard Kingsmill.
Yes, well, Richard Kingsmill, the issue with him is that if he doesn't lead a management buyout, it could be one of the bits of dead wood that another buyout group might seek to get rid of. Because let's face it, when you buy a company like the ABC, and I think it will be bought in 2007, it will be privatised. Triple J will be a part of it.
Will they sell off the components individually? Like, will they sell Triple J to one of the more commercial networks?
They might separate radio and television.
It would be better run by, say, a Triple M network.
Well, Triple M do it so well.
Yes.
Perhaps I'm wondering who they would keep here at Triple J. I'm looking at the pathetic people behind the glass. And
they're gone. Thankfully, they're gone. Yes. Who else?
Well, I can tell you...
all of them.
Certain announcers on ABC stations around the country. Virginia Trioli, for instance. Now, she's not liked in Sydney because she comes from Melbourne.
To Victoria.
She's not liked in Melbourne because she went to Sydney.
Yes.
So she's paid a lot of money. She could obviously go.
Andrew Howe would get a haircut.
Could I buy the Country Hour? Is that possible? Or at least the Victorian one?
And let's face it,
I've got the money for it, as you know, the walnut.
My firm has done an analysis of Rage, the all-night pop music video display.
Yes.
And most of the listeners, or most of the viewers, are actually asleep.
Yes.
And they wake up and they watch Inside Business with myself and Alan Kohler. Why not stick some ads on to keep them awake? Why not use that time to make some money for the ABC, to make some money for the new owners of the ABC, which in this year, and let's face it, another reason, federal election in 2007, the government's very keen to see that organisations funded by public money, which have been far too critical of the government, the government which has done so much for this country, they want to see them cut down to size. And again, the ABC is obviously guilty of bias against the federal government.
Massive bias.
Another good reason to sell it.
And it, of course, would inflate the public purse. And further balloon the surplus that we've had under John Howard?
Well, Peter Costello, of course, is partly responsible for that. But, I mean, he likes to hand out the tax cuts. And why shouldn't he? Why should we? I mean, effectively, the ABC is taking money out of people's pockets. What we're proposing to do, what I think is going to happen, they're going to put that money back into people's pockets. Sure, there'll be a few ads. Sure, some of the announcers that very few people listen to anyway will probably have to go.
Yes.
But you'll just have a much better, leaner organisation as a result.
I'd like to think that, people in a financial position such as myself would be able to put the ABC in their pockets.
Yes.
I'd buy the Country. I'd like to buy Rage. Hamish the Younger quite enjoys it. You could get his friends from Scotch College a guest programme every week, and they get the music they like, and they don't have to go out and get onto crystal meth.
I propose this, the hottest 100 means testing voters and disenfranchising anybody who's ever done drugs, which means that the number of people voting for the Triple J 100 would basically be as many as are in this studio at the moment. About 3. Yes. Yes.
I'm with you.
Yes. Tom, you're speaking far too much sense to confine to one break. Will you stick around?
I certainly will. I mean, this is a topic worth exploring with the listeners too.
So I'd like to buy Gardening Australia for fragrance.
The phone number 1300 0555 36. We are with Mr. Tom Elliott, a commentator on ABC's Inside Business and hedge fund manager from MM&E Capital. You are with, of course, myself, Stirling Addison, and Mr. Hamish Angus Clydeside. We are discussing the delicious prospect of a privatised ABC. Now, Tom, we were discussing off air the various arms and tentacles of the left-leaning monster that is the ABC. What would it be worth in crude dollar terms?
Well, money always talks, of course. Crude dollar terms is what we talk about in business. Now, I'll just throw a few numbers your way. Now, Channels 7 and 9 nationally have just been 50% each of those has been sold to international capital and financiers. They got $4 billion each for those. That's just for half of each station. So you'd have to say,
half?
Well, we like to think the better half, but I think Mr. James Packer, media titan that he
Packer
is,
the Younger.
Packer the Younger has made sure that he sold the worst half to the.
So they sold the away, but they kept the home end.
I'd like to think so. So the ABC, with, let's face it, something approximating a television in each capital city, a television station, that would be worth, I would say, $6 billion just for the TV stations alone. Then, of course, you've got the radio. Now, I made mention of one city's main talkback station, of course, up in Sydney, but there is, of course, a talkback AM station in each capital city, plus, of course, Radio National. They would have to be worth
News radio,
at least another $1 to $2 billion. So we're talking $7 or $8 billion of value that could be liberated, dead money that could be liberated from the ABC.
Yes.
Now, of course, there will have to be some changes. At the moment, the ABC costs money.
Yes.
And what we in the real world like to do is make money. You see? So we would like, if we're going
So what would they get rid of, Tom? Day one, what would you do? I mean, sell off ABC 2? Well, in real terms, it's only worth $13.
Well, let's face it. Let's just say, for argument's sake, there's 500 announcers now.
Yes.
And let's say we fill up every hour of broadcasting with the statutory minimum ads, which I think is about 14 or 15 minutes an hour.
Yes.
Well, there's 100 broadcasters we can get rid of straight away on average.
Right. Excellent.
So,
efficiencies.
Now, secondly, I look around, you have to call these ABC studios monstrously large. Monstrously large. I've been to commercial media organisations.
Yes.
Some of them just operate, at the back of caravans and, with a portaloo and just a barbecue to feed people.
For those who've not been into one of the larger city ABC studios, why do you think they spend so much money building voids in them?
Well, it's cult of personality. It's to try and frighten people as they come in.
Right. Yes.
It's to try and say, this is very big, this is space that needs to be filled. And so people fill it just by talking.
Left-wing blather.
Left-wing blather.
Yes.
So you could certainly sell off the capital city properties that the ABC owns.
Yes.
Ultimo in Sydney, South Bank in Melbourne, they're far too valuable. They're full of empty space.
Yes.
There are property developers who would buy those. That would liberate, I'd say, about another $1 billion.
Yes.
So we're talking $8 to $9 billion now that could be returned to the people of Australia.
Would anybody who purchases the ABC then have the right, and this I would urge upon them, to march every member of the ABC board, except for Janet Albrechtsen and Keith Winchannel, to the top of Ultimo and then force them off at gunpoint?
Yes, well, that is what happens at companies where the private equity people come in and buy big stakes. They actually take a grim delight in, the new broom, getting rid of the dead wood, out with the old and in with the new. So you'd see probably a ceremonial gangplank wheeled out the top of the building. It's just people... swan diving off the top.
The irony of having the void for the rest of the employees who are staying on board to watch them fall down.
Well, it's a delicious prospect. We'd like you to join in 1300 0555 36 in a newly efficient ABC. Who would you like to see sacked? What members of the ABC would you like to see sacked?
I'll tell you the ones I think do a good job. Now, I like to see broadcasters like Barry Cassidy, because he does 2 shows in the morning, not one, so you get twice the amount of work out of him. That's the sort of productivity you can do. If all the broadcasters
different
fields did twice as much, you only need half as many broadcasters. So let's get rid of half the broadcasters, be they radio or television at the ABC.
Yes.
Now, only keep the ones that can do 2 tricks.
Well, there's precious few of those, though. Yes. 1300 0555 36. Who would you like to see sacked from the ABC? This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J. You are with myself, Stirling Addison, my national cohort, Mr. Hamish Angus Clydeside, and from MM&E Capital for all your hedge fund needs, Mr. Tom Elliott. We are talking about the long overdue prospect of a privatised ABC. Tom.
Yes, well, of course, this is a particular year when Qantas, the flying kangaroo, was about to be sold to a largely foreign-dominated consortium. And let's face it now, SBS, which, who knows what that does anymore? It started off as an ethnic broadcaster. Now it's just so-called special broadcasting. It didn't used to have ads. Now it does have ads.
Yes.
The world hasn't stopped revolving over at SBS headquarters. Why not just do it with the ABC?
I totally agree.
I completely agree.
Totally agree.
And the other thing is, as someone who loves markets and, let's face it, loves money, and we all love money, even Triple J listeners out there, where would you be without money? Of course, you've got to sell when the valuations are high. Now, this is something that Kerry Packer understood well.
Being high is something all Triple J listeners understand.
Of course, but for a different reason, I suspect.
Yes.
But, of course, right now you'll never get a better price. For, Jeff Kennett in Melbourne sold all the power stations in the mid-90s, got a wonderful price, never looked back.
Yes.
All that money was given out to the grateful Victorian taxpayer.
It's a more efficient delivery of electricity services.
Absolutely. And Triple J, as I've pointed out, or not Triple J, but the whole ABC might get $8 to $9 billion. You've got to think of that as money that is dead, that could be better used by the government, handed out to taxpayers by Peter Costello.
Forgive me, Tom, and certainly forgive me, Stirling, for this slightly softly approach to this, but my wife, Fragrance, may have some troubles in watching The Bill or whatever costume drama's on with commercials. And I can see that as a small sticking point. Is it possible, do you think, to have the commercials and you have to watch them, but you can watch them all together at a certain time, like take them with you? Or as a commitment.
Yeah, or a vodcast of just commercials.
Well, I think one of the exciting bits of technology now is that new televisions will have something that actually records how long you stay in front. If you don't watch the commercials, the thing just switches itself off.
Yes.
Of course, we had with Channel 9 recently, it stopped being played on Korean televisions because Eddie Maguire had a disagreement with a certain Korean television company. For several hours one night, Channel 9 was just switched off. This is the power that people have these days.
So it turns itself off if you stop watching it?
If you stop watching the commercials. So you must watch the commercials.
How does it know? What if you've got like a lazy eye and it's not facing towards the television? Would it switch itself off intermittently as your eye got tired?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in these things.
We have a talkback caller on this particular topic who would like to weigh in. Good evening. Who have we got?
Hello.
No? Yes. Who would you like to see sacked from a privatised ABC?
Well, the token Irishman.
Yes.
I'm sick of him.
Who?
Dave McCallum or whatever his name is. He's such an idiot. I mean, we're beyond that, aren't we? Isn't the Northern Irish thing solved and everything? Why do we have to pay lip service to that guy?
Yes.
My understanding of David Cullen is actually he spent quite a bit of his life living in Australia and is not from the north. But despite your bigotry towards the north, the only part of Ireland
which is Protestant,
it is Protestant and worthy,
and the only part that functions.
So you've got a problem because he's a Republican. I'm not quite sure what your problem with him is.
My problem with is we have to pay lip service to his Irishman's humour.
Yes.
Because of our political debt, apparently. Because we're a free nation and they're not.
Yes.
So we have to apparently look after his sense of humour. I think that's ridiculous.
Yes. You go to any Irish pub and you'll hear a long, mournful song about being under John Bull's tyranny. Well,
it's ridiculous.
Well, they should welcome being.
I personally believe that we shouldn't
have... We've had a fundamentally Protestant government in power for how long now? 11
Not
years?
long enough.
Not long enough. No way, not long enough.
We suffered 5 years of Keating's Catholic tyranny.
But still, on the ABC, we have to pander, apparently. Yes. We're paying this guy, aren't we?
Yes.
Is that right?
I personally believe that we shouldn't have any people from other countries' sense of humour represented on the national broadcaster, whether it's privatised or not.
And, of course, let's not forget that one of the wonderful things about privatisation, by having things run by business people rather than left-wing ideologues, is that you have to appeal to what the majority of people think.
Yes.
You can't sit there worrying about minority groups because they don't pay the bills. There aren't enough of them. That's why they're minority groups.
And with our caller, we actually had an Irish breed of sheep, the Ulster Ram, for a brief time. We bred the humour out of it. We were tired of it.
Well, I will put the caller's mind to rest that that particular Irishman is paid in kegs of beer. It's ABC style. This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J. You're with myself, young Liberal, Stirling Addison, my national cohort, Hamish, and from MM&E Capital, Mr. Tom Elliott. We are talking about the very hot topic, you could say, of the privatised ABC. To further weigh into the discussion this evening, we are joined now by Queensland National Senator, Mr. Barnaby Joyce. We just had a caller on there complaining loudly about the ABC employing an Irishman. Of course, Barnaby Joyce's family is going back some way Irish. It may explain a treacherous predilection for crossing the floor, which Mr. Joyce has done a few times. Nonetheless, he is a fellow Conservative, and he joins us now. Good evening, Senator Joyce.
Good evening, Stirling.
It's very good to be with you.
Thank you. It's good to be with you too.
Good to speak to you again, Barnaby. I haven't seen you since the last time you came to one of our chukkers.
That's right. That's right. The last Central Council of the National Party where we had a great time rolling in the mud, drinking rum.
Mr. Joyce, we were talking earlier about the privatised ABC. Is that something you would support?
No, I don't think that it's quite as far as I want to go. I think that could cause a few problems. I think if we privatise the ABC, we probably would end up with Channel 9 again.
Hypothetically, we were discussing before how much it would cost. Hypothetically, how much do you think the ABC is worth?
Well, I suppose there's times it's worth quite a bit, and other times it's not. I think it's obviously got a strong role to play in maintaining an Australian culture. I think that's what we need to do. If it's got a role to play in giving Australia a few remnants of what makes us Australian as opposed to what makes us American or British.
Senator Joyce, it's Tom here. Now, let's say we did get $8 or $9 billion and you were able to go to Peter Costello and say, I'll only support the sale if the money is pumped back into rural and regional communities.
Well, as you know, Tom would have a National Party meeting and would straight away ask for a lot more than that. And would hold out, Tom.
So it's this sort of business-minded thinking that I like to hear.
I would call it bleating from the country for more federal money.
We like to call it pork barrelling, but it works well. And the more pork barrelling and money we can get into our own electorates, the better. And Tom's always leads the charge there at our state conference, making sure that we pork barrel to the hill.
Barnaby, according to one of your recent press releases, you believe there's a supermarket monopoly, inflated prices,
right.
etc. Would that be the best place then to sell the ABC, on the supermarket shelf?
I think it would, and that way we could definitely exploit the Australian consumer just a little bit more than what has already been done by an organisation that owns 42% of the market, being an organisation that starts with the letter W, and it's about to buy a lot more of an organisation that starts with the letter C. And,
interesting.
Should we punish a business for being successful then?
Only when the business starts to punish the Australian consumer and starts to work in basically in a duopoly, which puts out of business other Australians who want to make a go of it, want to be their own master and run their own show. And once they start doing that and compromising the rights of other Australian citizens, yes, we should put them, at least restrict their capacity to do it.
Senator Joyce, you mentioned duopolistic businesses. Now, of course, another big duopoly is airlines in this country. And, of course, the biggest one of those is probably going to be sold again soon. Is that going to happen over your dead body?
Yeah, I've got some serious problems with that. As Tom also brought up at the previous National Party State Conference, that airline has a virtual monopoly in so many of our regional routes. Also, it's a big employer of people in down where you come from, Stirling, in the inner suburbs of Sydney.
Yes.
And we've got to make sure that if it is in the national interest for us to be able to move people around our nation, so we don't want Qantas to end up like Ansett and go broke one night on us.
Now, just moving on from, you tiresome rant against Qantas, who do a great job, of course. Mr. Joyce, you served in the Army Reserve, and thanks to our American allies, we now possess the powerful Abrams M1 tank, a main battle tank, which is, of course, a lethal killing machine. Now, from a tactical point of view, do you think it should have been deployed against the protesters outside Dick Cheney's hotel?
Yeah, look, I think it should have been deployed, but possibly not used. I think it would have probably made the news if we'd used it. But I think it would have looked good. I mean, it would have been good theatre, if we had just not one. I'd like to see 3 or 4 of them. Maybe we encircle the protesters or something like that. I think
suppressing, enfilading fire.
Yeah,
carefully choreographed.
That's right, and I think the hairy armed socialists deserve nothing less than to be shown every now and then just the extent of what we've got up our sleeve and how we really do rule the world. They can bong on and have a party.
Yes.
When it comes down to tin tacks, we've got the Abrams tank.
Yes, well, just on that, with the drought, bushfire is now by far the greatest threat that we face. Under a national government led by Senator Joyce, will it be legal in Nimbin at least to shoot a fire twirler?
I think it's. I don't think there's going to be much we can do to stop them. I always think it's one of the most interesting jobs on earth to be the local policeman at Nimbin. I don't quite know what he does during the day, but it obviously involves reading the paper.
I tried to shoot a fire twirler once, but they were too close to my children, and I was scared that their twirly thing would fly off and catch on one of their braids.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting place, Nimbin. It adds a lot to the the cultural mystique of the northern coast. And I don't know.
Do you wish it was part of Queensland? And that's tantalisingly close.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a place where people having joints going off between their toes as they walk around their shops would fit in Queensland. We could give it a shot in Dalby, but I don't know whether the Bible Belt of Queensland would really sort of grab onto Nimbin.
Dalby always has been a canker up there in the Darling Downs, isn't it?
Maybe we could try them out at a morning tea at the next National Party conference and see which part of Queensland gravitates towards them and send them up there.
Senator Joyce, to change the topic again, you are a Catholic. Why do you want to compel families to spend their $4,000 baby bonus on rosary beads and 4 kilo sacks of potatoes?
Well, I think I think anybody of Irish heritage should eat potatoes. And myself and my 55 kids, each night we chow down to potato soup and roast potatoes, and we've got a couple of pigs with the chooks in the backyard. Generally, the pigs are eating the chooks, but I think it's good. I'm just trying to. I've lost a couple of kids tonight, but we'll find them somewhere.
You'll breed again under the Pope's orders, no doubt.
As long as it's not a blight.
Well, we're just trying to. We've passed a policy that we should have more kids than the Muslims, and we're trying to do our bit. Clearly,
to earn that $4,000.
Well, it's better than I think it's a relevant sort of construction to our nation. I heard Peter Stirling when you and Peter put together the idea that you should have one for Mum, one for Dad, and one for Australia. And we decided to have one for every state and in fact every provincial town.
Now, Barnaby, under your regional partnerships program, I see that you've recently donated over $210,000, I call it donation, to the Yeppoon kindergarten. Now, I'm assuming now, having heard that it's entirely the need for it is to house some of your 55 children.
Well, yes.
I'm wondering if we could enter into a similar partnership. We need a second coffee machine at our polo club rooms.
Right.
We've got a slide $210,000.
Well, I think that this is. Look, it all depends where the polo room is. Obviously, if it's
on my property.
Oh well, if that's in a National Party electorate, definitely.
Yes.
In fact, I'm surprised you haven't got the application in.
I'll get the secretary to type something up tomorrow.
Let's not go through the rigmarole. Just take it as a given.
Let's just rubber stamp that now. Lovely.
Actually, there's a good mate of mine, Brian. You might want to run it past him. He's wandering around Canberra, getting everybody put out of a job at the moment.
Yes.
But if you can have a yarn to him, he might be able to.
Thank you. We'll exchange numbers on a fair.
Lastly, Senator Joyce, most scientists agree on one thing.
Yes.
They believe that the drought that we are currently in the grips of can only be broken by a coalition victory at this year's election. What do you think of that?
It's a truth. It hurts, but I think we should run with it. It's amazing that since Kevin Rudd has got himself into a bit of strife, that it started raining, which just goes to show that God is on our side. I just thought it was the prayers we had before our National Party Central Council meetings, but I've noticed that the more Kevin's in trouble, the more it rains. And what other evidence does the Australian people want? I mean, you'd have to be blind not to see it.
Senator Joyce, it has been something of a delight to speak to you, a qualified delight.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be talking again.
I listen to you religiously, and when I say religiously, I mean it.
Yes,
Thank you.
under instructions from the Bishop of Rome. This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J.
Restoring the balance. Countering commie claptrap with considered conservative comment.
Now seems fit to go after SBS's territory and play non-English music. Gotan Project, My Confession. Don't even bother looking for it. The people who wrote that can't spell My Confession. I'm not even going to bother enunciating it. The album is Lunatico or something like that. This is Restoring the Balance. You are with Stirling and Hamish, Tom from MM&E Capital. Speak to them for all your hedge fund needs. Tom, it's been a pleasure having you in here.
Yes, well, it's been wonderful to be in here. And, of course, haven't we had some wisdom from the federal national Senator Barnaby Joyce? Of course, he pointed out that the worse Kevin Rudd goes, the more he lies, the more it rains.
Yes.
And I would say the same thing. Obviously, a coalition victory is the best that people can hope for this year. With it will come privatisation of the ABC, $8 to $9 billion. That'll pay for a lot more baby bonuses from people like Barnaby Joyce who want to have 55 to 60 children. I worked out in my head that he's pulled in over $250,000 from a grateful federal government for pushing out all those kids. Yeah, so, why not? Why not?
Well, we can say with three Protestants in the room, not a lick of sanction over birth control. We can practice birth control.
That's right.
As our church allows us, of course. Barnaby Joyce, of course, cannot put anything on the end of, his little servant of Rome.
He's a man, he can't control his own impulses. We know that. But that's wonderful as well. We like that about him.
Yes.
Sterling, you and Penny...
it will happen one day. Well, it is a torturous, chaste courtship. It is especially hard on her. She does, however, practice good Christian virtues. She can be nightly found at the RSL in Bondi, helping out travellers there. A man she helped out recently, 2 or 3 men, French ski instructors who are at the RSL, and she had them at her place. And being a Christian, she let them, I'm assuming, stay in her bed because the next morning when I saw her, she was terribly sore. She could barely walk. I can only assume that that came from sleeping on the floor. Well, the 3 Frenchmen enjoyed her bed. This is the sort of woman I'm proud to marry.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's not everybody who'd be confident enough to have foreign Johnnies in their house like that.
Yes, well, call them what you will. Call it, but I'm sure my grandfather almost died protecting them many years ago, had he not avoided the draft successfully.
Barnaby has just called back in, apparently. It is no longer El Nino, it's El Rado.
Yes, Barnaby. Well said. Another stinging bon mot from Barnaby that will no doubt hurt Mr. Rudd grievously.
Oh, indeed.
This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J. Goodbye, Tom.
Restoring the Balance Bias Watch.
Restoring the Balance is casting an Argus-like eye over all alleged or real bias which occurs in the ABC. There is much to pick up on. I am here, myself, Stirling Addison, with Mr. Hamish Angus Clydeside of the National Party. Hamish, you will be distressed, no doubt, as many Triple J listeners would be, by visiting...
I doubt that.
By visiting the ABC website, such as I did recently. It was to get a recipe for cooking.
You were in search of a recipe?
I was, yes. And I came upon the ABC site. Now, there were perhaps thousands of recipes that could have been offered on this site. But, of course, being the ABC and this being Bias Watch, I felt I needed to alert people to this. It was for a particular form of beef salad. You may say that beef salad is not an important thing to get concerned about when it comes to the ideological skew of the ABC, but I say this is the part that tells the whole.
To my palate, beef and salad is anathema.
Well, not so here at the ABC. Not when the beef salad is indeed Vietnamese.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. I'm assuming that the ABC chef had any number of Southeast Asian countries that are not under the yoke of Marx and Lenin to choose from, but instead went straight to Vietnam, no doubt upon the orders of Caroline Tran. Now I ask, in the name of even-handedness, did the ABC even consider sourcing a recipe from any other Asian country? It obviously did not. No. This recipe came from from a female using a nom de guerre. The surname was Keating. Keating. The smoking gun. The smoking gun of the Vietnamese beef salad.
Was that first name? Sue. So potentially a Vietnamese girl who's adopted the Keating nom de plume.
Yes. So on behalf of all Triple J listeners, I've forwarded this clear example of bias to the ABC's independent complaints review panel. A judgment awaits.
No response?
Not yet. We are still in the process, and whoever put it up, I hope, will be sacked.
This is interesting. Fragrance attempted to put online her recipe for verjuice. Verjuice. You don't dabble in culinary things.
How do you spell that?
Verjus. Verjuice.
I've never heard of it.
Really, it's a dressing. It's a liquidy thing. Right. I don't know. Fragrance does the cooking. But she attempted to get it online because a number of the girls in the area, including Tammy, up at Narade, were complaining that they didn't have a recipe. None of the Women's Weekly cookbooks or any of those had a decent verjuice.
Yes.
So she'd put
a recipe up there for verjuice. No doubt it's something Mel Gibson...
Even locally.
Mel Gibson is probably blaming verjuice for everything. Yes, that would be his style. You can look forward to more Bias Watch next week. Thank you, Hamish. Triple J.
Triple J community announcement. Drug price update. Riverland grown marijuana holding steady at $50 a gram. Amphetamines, see your dealer for details. Cocaine. Due to the production hold-ups in Bolivia, you can expect to pay upwards of $300 a gram. This has been the Triple J drug price.
Buck, when I was ambushed by him last Friday, I don't know what's more wasted there, the taxpayers' money on that particular ad or the audience it's aimed at. This is Restoring the Balance on Triple J. The phone number here is 1300 055 36. You're with myself, Stirling Addison, and my National Party co-host, Hamish. We'll just call him Hamish.
Please, that's my name.
We have Michelle from North Cairns, who has something to add about disgraced Labor leader Kevin Rudd and Brian Burke. Good evening, Michelle.
Well, hello.
How are you?
Very well. Very well.
You wanted to weigh into the disgraceful episode that we were subjected to this week with the Labor leader showing an incredible lapse of judgment, if you will, that surely disqualifies him from running the country.
Well, a lapse of judgment in the case of Panama hats, if nothing else.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
The fashion of Panama hats, I mean, that is so 1970s, in my opinion. But that's...
Made him look like a lamp.
A lamp? I think it made him look like some sort of like, wannabe Pablo Escobar. Just myself. I mean, call me strange, but...
Perth is obviously the sunny place for shady people.
Indeed,
yes.
Indeed, and that's why you would need a Panama hat, clearly.
Now, Michelle, you are no doubt, and I hope bringing up to use the Triple J forum to condemn Kevin Rudd.
I'm actually here to ask people to sort of ask, what is the story behind Kevin Rudd? I mean, he's a man with frameless glasses, and I've thought about this, a lot, and that would make him appear transparent. But at the same time, this association with Bruce Burke makes me sort of think Brian Burke.
Bruce or Brian, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
It's his cousin Bruce that I probably had, more of association with.
I know him as inmate number 4657321. Yes.
Or suspect 436.
He's actually been upgraded from disgraced former premier to disgraced underworld character.
Yes.
Underworld, underworld figure, or colourful racing
identity, yes.
Michelle, on your comment about the frameless glasses, Kevin Rudd did for a short while, whilst he was on the backbenches, flirt with wearing with frames, but he used to fall over a lot and found himself falling into the ministry unrewarded.
You see. It's the parameters. The frames on the glasses gave him parameters within which he could not conform.
Exactly.
And I think that gives you your whole thing there up.
It's impossible to be pragmatic with frames.
Michelle, I urge all voters when they do confront. It's been a job to speak to you. We have Tim from Melbourne. Good evening, Tim.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Excellent.
Look, I've just I love what you're doing.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a lefty myself, but I believe that if a bird hasn't got its left or it's a right wing, it can't fly. So you kind of got to find the balance in between.
Yes.
But I was just wondering, with that drug reference you had before to the prices, where the hell did you get $50 a gram for pot? Because I'm actually a teacher, but I buy mine for $10 a gram when I buy it. you know.
Off your students?
No.
What, are you selling it to them as well?
No. I rarely smoke pot anymore. But
you know what it costs conveniently.
Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm.
So you just ring up to show off to your students that you're on drugs.
No,
is that what you've done?
Yes.
Is it?
No doubt you work for the public system. The public system.
The public system. Well, yeah, maybe that's the way it goes. But I'm just wondering, like, you're talking about Rudd and politicians and being dishonest and him dealing with Burke and that.
Yes.
And I think, in my view, if I ever met an honest politician, I'd fall a keel over and die. I mean,
that's because you've got one left wing.
Yeah, well, true, but you've got one right wing, and together we make a bird, you know.
I have two right wings. I'm a National Party member.
Well, does that make you fly in circles? Or
no, it makes me fly perfectly straight to the end of the world.
Well, look, I'll just leave it at that. But look, I do like what you're doing, even though I'm not politically aligned to your views. And I'll leave it at that and have yourself a lovely evening.
Enjoy your drugs.
This is a man who obviously was reaching for his bong and accidentally picked up the phone. So thank you so much, Tim. We have Francis from Sydney. Good evening, Francis.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Very well.
That's good to hear. I was going to say, did you party for Mardi Gras last night?
No, I'd quite happily see it banned. I'd like to see some sort of festival for heterosexuals, but in the current politically correct climate, that's simply not possible.
So you don't want a mass orgy of heterosexuals, you just want a mass political orgy of hairy, eyebrow, glass men.
Are you suggesting we have a heterosexual Mardi Gras where only bespectacled men are allowed?
Oh, that's very interesting. What about
have I just made some sense of what's on in your head, Francis? Are you on some of the drugs that were advertised earlier as well? We seem to be getting a pattern here.
No, I'm not on any drugs, actually. Just had a couple of mojitos. And I'd just like to ask you a question.
Yes.
Now, Kevin Rudd's dealings with Brian Burke, are they as shady as John Howard's dealings with Saddam Hussein and the AWB scandal?
Well, where do we start?
I don't know. Do we start with the Australian troops that are in an illegal war?
How was the war illegal if it was sanctioned by the United Nations?
It wasn't sanctioned by the United Nations because they spoke about UN Resolution 1442, but there are other countries that are they've disputed other resolutions, 242, and breaking other resolutions. Now, let me tell you, it is an illegal war. The invasion of a sovereign nation.
An illegal war to remove a dictator. And the bad side of that is what?
Well, I don't know. I think we should remove the dictator that's currently in Australia.
We have a democracy. We will have the chance to do that at the end of the year.
But what if Indonesia...
Are you suggesting some form of coup?
What if Indonesia decides to do a preemptive... What if Indonesia, Bam Bang, General Bam Bang, decides to do a preemptive strike on Australia?
Using what forces? Using what forces?
I don't know. They've got 160 million.
People.
We've got 20 million. They're our neighbours. Iraq's got nothing to do with us. We were selling wheat to them. We were selling wheat.
I think.
Now, I'll tell you.
To the Indonesians. They're very confused, Francis.
No. I'm saying to Iraq, we were selling. They were our business partners. We were making money. And then we decided to go and murder them. But let me tell you, the situation on the ground here is that...
Are you in Iraq?
I'm in all the way.
Should I suggest we start selling them dope at $50 a kilo?
I think so.
No, $50 a kilo. I reckon you got to numb you got to numb the masses. You got to numb them. So you sell the ganja at $10 a kilo. You get them all stoned, and then you go and invade Indonesia before they invade us. And then we invade New Zealand, and then we invade New Caledonia, and then we invade Reunion Island, then we invade South Africa and turn it into another apartheid nation.
Yes, I could listen to this all night, but then I'd probably decapitate myself.
We don't want to do Francis out of a voice because he will be doing the graveyard shift here tonight on Triple J.
Thank you, Francis, for some much-needed truth here on Restoring the Balance on Triple J. Speaking of talkback callers, we have Richard from Brisbane. Good evening, Richard.
Hello, Stirling.
Richard, you wanted to add to the debate about the disgraced Labor leader Kevin Rudd?
I thought I should add to the debate. I thought you had missed something. Brian Burke and Kevin Rudd's encounter. It's obviously had
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah,
it wasn't an encounter.
Effect on Kevin Rudd's thinking and his ascension to leadership. I think Kevin Rudd needs to go deeper now and go backwards and maybe talk to Sir Joe. maybe get a séance going.
Séance.
He is another former disgraced state party leader.
How was he disgraced? In that he brought years of unbroken prosperity to the formerly moribund state of Queensland.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, unbroken prosperity and unbridled laws, and
he knew. He had a proactive police minister who knew how to stamp out riffraff, gatherings of riffraff, and seditious elements.
You only needed to visit the Fortitude Valley on a Friday night in the 1980s
crawling with drunks,
to see that proactivity.
Crawling with pimps and drunks.
Yes, I mean exactly. That was the proactivity of the Peterson era.
And what would he
Kevin
seek to
Rudd,
gain?
being a Queenslander, should be trying to connect with Sir Joe. If he can make these connections with Brian Burke, who I have very little knowledge of. I'm a Queenslander, but I mean I think him,
we have 6
Sir
states
Joe,
and 2 territories.
Brian Burke, bring it all together and see what happens. Maybe we'd end up with John Howard.
I think the opprobrium you wish to heap upon Sir Joe, who was, of course, a Knight of the Realm, should be directed a little further east from New Zealand, whence he came, and you should direct that hatred towards all New Zealanders.
Oh, but Stirling, I mean that's just the easy option out. I mean, we can direct everything towards New Zealand at any given time. I really believe that Sir Joe and Kevin Rudd, there should be a séance and there should be some...
Yes, you've made that point.
I prefer the vision of some sort of Weekend at Bernie's type adventure.
Yes. So like a reincarnation.
So he could be seen with him, and that's all the Brian Burke thing was about. Kevin Rudd wanted to be seen with Brian Burke because he all knows what that's going to get him.
I mean, clearly, he admitted to it almost immediately as soon as it became public knowledge. He was the first to jump out and say that he had these meetings with him. So
yes.
Why wouldn't he do the same with Sir Joe?
I think anybody
he's dead.
Anybody living in Queensland would yearn for the glory days of Sir Joe rather than being under the Labor yoke.
No, we do. With Peter Beattie in power, we do yearn for the days of Sir Joe. I hate our current state of freedoms. And
Richard, I'm going to say goodbye to you and say goodbye to you as you more accurately should be called. Goodbye, Dick. Restoring the Balance, Triple J. This is Restoring the Balance, 2 hours of considered conservative comment. Now, Hamish, before coming on the show, you insisted on interviewing one particular guest who you held as an esteemed favourite.
Indeed. Nola and I met up in Echuca. She served
on the Murray.
She served some delightful pumpkin and cherry scones from memory. While we were travelling south downstream, which is difficult to do in the Murray,
yes.
Particularly in that part of Victoria / New South Wales. We were on the waterline, categorically must be New South Wales. It was on the HMS Canberra, or the paddle steamer Canberra, the PS Canberra.
Yes.
How are you, Nola? Lovely to see you again.
Hello, how are you?
Very well.
Nola, you are, of course, the Victorian President of the Country Women's Association.
That's correct.
Who do valuable work.
That's right.
In rural areas.
Actually, in the metropolitan area too.
Really?
Yes.
How many members are there in the Melbourne metropolitan area, for instance?
A lot. We have... Actually, our very first branch started in Melbourne 79 years ago this month.
Really?
Yes. What good Australian values do you hope to instil in young women with the CWA, Nola?
Well, we believe in sharing.
Yes.
We believe in caring. We believe that we should be working for the benefit of women and children, thereby working for families.
Yes. We are very pro-family on this show.
Yes. Well, I am too. Actually, when you rang, I thought it might have been a call from Portland. I'm expecting a grandchild there any day.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll drop in on them for you. Perhaps I can drop off a teddy bear for you.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
I live 33 kilometres away from Portland.
From Portland?
Yes,
Oh,
in Harewood.
really?
Yes, I thought you'd remembered that from our paddle steamer encounter.
A long time ago.
From memory, you had more than tea on that day. You don't like tea from memory, no?
No, I don't drink tea, no.
But apparently, and I was recipient of a lovely first flush orange pico on the day, you make an exemplary cup of tea, but you don't like to drink it. How did that come to pass?
I have a caffeine allergy, unfortunately.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
So I can't have coffee, I can't have tea, I can't have cocoa, I can't have chocolate, I can't have Coca-Cola.
Can you drink any of the herbal concoctions?
Yes, I drink a lot of peppermint tea.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Nola, I wanted to speak to you about the CWA at large. Is it a shame, do you think, that the two generations of bra-burning feminists have turned their back on such valuable things as needlework and homecraft?
I don't think so. Look, everything goes round in circles. Everything comes and resurges again. But we've had a lot of young women come to us and say, we want to learn what Grandma did, not what Mum did.
Excellent.
Exactly what we've had. We've been running...
Go without butter for 6 years, that kind of thing.
That's right. We've been running cooking classes out at our Toorak establishment for young women who suddenly want to learn to cook. We even had to teach them how to cook a roast dinner.
Yes, to get a husband.
Well, I tell you what, Nola, my youngest, Sarah, she flirted with drugs for a short while on one particular evening, and, you know, the thing that got her off it was quilting.
Mm.
We got her quilting, and she never touched a drug again.
No, well, I mean, all these handicrafts and things are very calming.
Mm.
What's your favourite? I always like to come home after a busy week in the office and do something creative, whether it's be cooking or whether it would be just a little bit of crochet or some needlework or just some sewing on the machine. I just find that very calming.
Yes, Fragrance, my wife, she finds decoupage particularly calming. She's run out of things to decoupage, though. She recently decoupaged our second Pajero. I couldn't find it. I could see several of them.
That is humorous.
Yes, thank you.
Nola, could you give us some idea of your membership nationally? How many women are answering the call to be better women by acquiring skills such as cooking a roast or needlecraft?
Probably well over 20,000.
20,000?
Yeah. We're the biggest women's organisation actually in the world. Around the world, we have 9 million members.
Well, that would be apart from the ABC Union, which is run wholly by lesbians.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, we don't go into sexual preferences in our organisation.
So you allow lesbians?
We just take everybody as they are. Mm. We are non-judgmental. We're non-political and and we don't care what religion anyone is.
So, Nola, are there any grounds for expulsion from the Country Women's Association?
I don't think so, as long as we follow our constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I noted with interest you lobbied for marijuana to be legalised for medicinal purposes.
No, we did only to be used for medicinal purposes.
Yes. Well, there must be a lot of terminally ill Triple J listeners then.
Well, really? I didn't know I thought people would be, if they were terminally ill, wouldn't have the brains to be listening.
Well, it depends.
Depends on what the illness is.
Yes.
Well, no, we just wanted an extra sort of pain relief for people who have either a chronic illness or a terminal illness, because sometimes some of the things they give are not very nice.
Yes, but
and have some very bad side effects.
They're purely unintended, of course, by the hard-working pharmaceuticals who research them and release them.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Oh, look, I know what it is. I have a lot of allergies. There are a lot of drugs I can't take, and if I was terminally ill, I would be thinking that I wouldn't. I'd be looking for something else as a pain reliever.
Well, there is a sentence you will never hear from a Triple J listener, Hamish. There are a lot of drugs I can't take. That would be a fantasy. Nola, if young women who are keen to acquire a husband would like to join the CWA, how would they go about it?
Sorry, I can't guarantee a husband.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
You used to be able to, Nola.
Well, when I lived up country, I used to run the marriage book.
Yes.
I used to be able... I had several young men come to me and ask me could I fix them up with a...
How did the marriage book work? Was it an actual notebook?
No, it sort of started out as a joke.
Right.
Yes.
And I just said that, they said could I fix them up with someone, and I said, well, maybe I should start a book of eligible males and females.
There has been a trend in recent times. We had one in Hayward a little while ago. Some of our girls, to be frank, are a little frumpy.
Yes.
And they were having trouble getting husbands, and so they organised a function whereby men would come down from the city for the weekend and be billeted out to various families. We had one staying at our place. He didn't stay till dawn, I can tell you. But do you think there's a place for these kind of matchmaking, city boy meets country girl?
Do you know what it is? Do you know what the shame is these days?
Feminism.
There's no country dances or church dances or places where young people can go. Really, the only place to go is the pub or somewhere.
Yes.
And I mean, I was glad I grew up when I did, because I used to go dancing 2-3 times a week. I belonged to a tennis club. We'd have a tennis dance and all the neighbouring people would come. And it's just a shame that there's nowhere like that.
Even the tradition of the battler and spinster ball seems to have gone by the wayside. I spent many a happy weekend driving from Farrer, the agricultural college I attended in Tamworth, to far-flung places like Mooney, Gundawindi, Dolby, as mentioned earlier by Barnaby Joyce, finding a nice young girl, having engagement with her for the weekend and never seeing her again.
Yes, well, I mean, that's very sad. Look, a lot of matches were made with people from young farmers.
Yes.
You know, and even that isn't as strong as it used to be, more the pity.
Oh, I tell you what, the smell of Border Leicester on your moleskins is quite a potent aphrodisiac, I can tell you.
Well, I still like the smell of cows. I was up country doing, speaking at some conferences, and to get out of the car and smell the earthy smell, you know, of cows and sheep and horses, it is just like ozone for city people.
You're in the city now, Nola, is that right?
Yes, I moved back.
So you go to the show for 10 days to get the
I go to the show, yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, we do our bit out there.
Now, Nola, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to an old-fashioned woman.
Yes.
And lovely to see you again, or talk to you again.
Thank you very much.
Nola, where would a young woman wanting to join the CWA go? Did she go to a website, or did she call you personally?
Well, if she likes to ring us up on 98278971.
Nola, is that a Victorian number?
Yes,
should there be an 03 in front of that?
That is only for Victorian people. The others would have to go. We do have a CWA in every state of Australia. But for Victoria would be 0398278971, and just make contact, and we have a membership person who would be able to speak to them, find out what their interests are, and perhaps put them in the direction of a city or a country branch.
Well, to help you out, Nola, I'll get Fragrance to go out tonight and put out a decoupage in large letters, the phone number. So if people can fly over my property, which is called Fizzledine, they'll see it.
Well, it's very, very interesting, because my family originally came from those parts. They came to those parts in 1849.
Oh,
original white settlers.
Yes.
The Henty period.
Come out to work for the Henties.
Yes,
really?
Yes. You should be proud. You should be proud, Nola.
Yes.
It has been an absolute delight speaking to you, and we wish you all the best with the Country Women's Association, which has, of course, 44,000 members nationally. You do outstanding work, and we wish you all the best, Nola.
Thank you.
I am Stirling Addison. I'm with Coalition co-host, Mr. Hamish Angus Clydeside. Hamish, I am cleaning up Triple J.
Literally.
It is something that I'm bringing to Triple J, which is, of course, run relentlessly from a leftist point of view, and therefore a public school perspective on everything. As a part of this, I'm attempting to bring a touch of class to the Hottest 100. And therefore, at the moment, I'm instituting, for the first time ever on Triple J, the Hottest 100 of private school songs. Now, I must, when I say this, because you can go to the website, www.abc.net.au, Triple J / Restoring the Balance. I must point out, they can only be accredited APS schools. Now, simply because...
or GPS, for
yes. Simply because you roll up drunk to your Catholic school and the headmaster is passed out on some sort of amphetamine and he is, in fact, in charge of your school and then takes $300 from you. That itself does not mean that you are at a private school.
Right.
We are, obviously, there will be a weighted index favouring Protestant schools.
Right. They all know who they are.
Yes. I mean, you know when you're at a good school, when you're not.
You know that, year after year, if your school was asking permission to play rugger against one of the real schools, and they said no every year, that you weren't one of them.
Yes, they put you back in your box. So, at the moment, Shaw Grammar, my alma mater, is leading at number 1 with Hurrik Hurrah.
Right.
Now, the words for Hurrik Hurrah are on the website. You can record a version if you would like. Also, on the Restoring the Balance website, for the first time ever, Hamish, for us, is something called the Prodcast.
Right.
The Prodcast. You are able to access sermons by Reverend Peter Jensen. You are able to access choral hymns by Anglican choirs in England, and plus a dramatised serial, a week-by-week serial of Peter Jensen's life. This week features an episode called The Change Room Epiphany.
Lovely.
That is available on the world's first ever Prodcast. We have been restoring the balance. It has been a pleasure. We will be back next week at 9.
Triple J.